Hey, thanks so much for finding the video. Do us a favor. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe. Be sure to leave your comment. We love to interact. Enjoy the video. A really busy day, obviously, for the Saints as they've got a lot of work to do before the start of free agency. Let's, I guess, just kind of go sequentially and start with the David Onyemata news here in restructuring his deal. Your reaction there?
That is a restructuring one of many. And just so your listeners understand, it's not a pay cut. I mean, they just are basically just moving numbers on a page. David Onyemata would get more money up front, and they would lower his base salary. So he's going to get the money that he has been contractually promised. He's going to get that. So, I mean, we're going to be seeing that. And even though it's $4 million, doesn't sound like much, but every penny, as we've seen by just some of these straight up releases that we just saw a little while ago, every penny is going to matter. So this is just step one of many contract restructurings, releases, or maybe even pay cuts that the Saints are going to ask players to take.
It's going to be interesting to see what they do with Sheldon Rankins, another guy, Malcom Brown potentially along the defensive line as well. But Onyemata will be back. Shy Tuttle is a guy there as well. Who else do you think is filling those spots on the defensive line in 2021 for New Orleans?
Well, you also look at Malcolm Roach. I think he's someone that they like. He just had better players ahead of him. And so a lot of times he spent that day on game day inactive. But look, you mentioned Rankins and you mentioned Tuttle, and we're hearing that someone like Malcom Brown, he could either be cut or traded because of this. And so I think this is something that they're a spot where they looked deep last year. The depth could easily run out. And we know Rankins is a free agent. I suspect someone will pay him more than the Saints would be willing to pay him. So all of a sudden, a place of strength with depth might have some different faces, and you might have to kind of unearth some guys that you don't know if they're going to be as good as some of the guys you had from last year.
They also re-signed JT Gray, who's a name people have gotten familiar with, but why such importance on a guy like JT Gray?
Special teams, their special teams unit has improved, say, the last few years because they found guys like a JT Gray, like a Justin Hardy. And when the Saints find these guys, they try to hang on to them as much as they can. And it's not like they are big-time hits on the salary cap. You know, you hear it's max out at $4 million, $2 million guaranteed. That's actually cheaper than if you would have given him a restricted free agent tender. So that's the route that the Saints were taking. And but JT Gray has actually become one of the better special teams guys in the league, not just on the Saints, but in the league. And so, the Saints, instead of trying to go find a guy in the draft and you have to go find, you have one of your two guys. And look, Hardy is also someone that the Saints are probably going to be looking to re-sign. But JT Gray, you don't want to see him on defense, but you want to see him on special teams, and they're going to have it back.
Larry Holder's with us on Twitter, at Larry Holder, theathletic.com/New Orleans. So the sort of notable releases today are a pair of tight ends, Josh Hill and Jared Cook. I would certainly say, Larry, Jared Cook isn't a surprise considering inconsistent play in the cap number. Josh Hill maybe caught some off guard. What was your reaction when you saw the news today about the two tight ends?
Jared Cook was basically just a formality. His contract was going to be voided once the league year started. So this is just basically sending in the paperwork. All right, he's not going to come back, and you're just going to eat $2 million of avoidable years. So that's what you're going to have to do there. Josh Hill, I remember we went through this exercise a couple weeks ago where I tried to kind of go through the list of names with you, and how many names did I list? Like 15, 20? I tried to avoid Josh Hill, but I think this just goes to show you it saves you about $2.5, $2.6 million off the cap, but this just goes to show you every dollar actually matters. And so you look at someone else who has a cap number like that, who could cut ties with, like Thomas Morstead or Patrick Robinson. If Josh Hill is in danger, and that's someone that Sean Payton always lauds as someone who, I remember he referred to him as, you lose him, it's like losing the front door of your house because He's someone who blocks, and he does all these different things. So I think that is a more sizable loss than people may give it credit for. But it also goes to show you that they're ready for Adam Troutman. They feel like he is going to be someone who can do it all. He can block, he can catch. And you saw actually Josh Hill's snaps get lowered from the last couple of years with the addition of Troutman. So I think they're going to use Troutman as much as they can, as opposed to kind of divvying up snaps 40% here, 30% here, 30% here. So you're going to be seeing more Troutman than obviously than what you saw this past year.
Okay, so I totally agree with more Troutman. We saw his snaps go up as the season went along. But Sean Payton's always had a Josh Hill, a Michael Ho'omanu-Anui, that sort of attached tight end that could block and maybe be a small factor in the passing game. Is that guy not there this year? Do they just roll with Troutman? What's the thought there?
Yeah, they can't just roll with Troutman. I mean, that's not possible. I think they're going to maybe look to the draft, or if you get someone who is a minimum salary veteran, I think a lot of what we're going to be seeing, and as people are having to cut ties with players, a lot of this middle class of the NFL is going to be squeezed, and they're not going to be paid a ton of money. So I feel like there's going to be some quality guys out there, and I think that's where the Saints are going to have to look at tight end. I mean, we've seen kind of guys like Garrett Griffin hang around, but if he was better, I mean, he'd be on the roster all the time, and he's not. So I feel like that the Saints are going to have to be in that veteran minimum market, or look at someone somewhere in the draft and go with it. Or, I mean, Taysom Hill might have to play more tight end. If he doesn't win the starting job at quarterback, you're going to have to use him somewhere. And so I think that that you might see more Taysom Hill as a quote-unquote tight end in this scenario.
Larry, there's a flurry here today of moves. Should we expect, and based on whatever precedent may ring in your head, should we expect the Saints to continue each day with a flurry like this relatively quickly, or is this something that may draw out over the next 2 weeks with getting to the cap number?
It cannot dry out. It has to happen because they're so far above the cap. This has to happen over and over and over again to star players. I mean, we could see this stuff happening with Cam Jordan, Teron Armstead. You're going to be looking for a Ryan Ramczyk or Marshawn Lattimore contract extension. That would be advantageous for the Saints. You're going to be looking at other moves. Releases Saquon Alexander, or maybe a Janoris Jenkins or a Morstead, or a Malcom Brown. I mean, these have to happen. I mean, it's the law. Like, you have to get under the cap by the time the league year starts, no matter what. I don't even know what the penalty is if you're not, but you have to do it. So these moves have to happen. Maybe it slows down for a day or two and they all come in a giant bunch, but they're working behind the scenes to make this happen. As to when they all come out, I think that's kind of up to the team and agents when they want to actually divulge when a lot of this stuff is going to happen.
So according to Spotrac, the adjusted cap number for New Orleans right now with the moves today puts the Saints still $61.1 million over the cap. So, I mean, I know we did the exercise a few weeks ago, Larry, but they've still got $61 million just to get under the cap, and that's before you sign a free agent or sign your draft picks. What else should we realistically expect in short order?
Some of the names I just rattled off, I'll just go through. Saquon Alexander, you would save $13 million if you cut him. Look, Janoris Jenkins, I don't want to cut him if I'm the Saints, but you'd eat $7 million, but you'd gain $7 million if you cut him. So he's a prime target. Thomas Morstead, you'd save about $3 million. Malcom Brown, you'd save $5 million. I'm not doing the math as I'm going. That probably sounds like about 20 to 30 million there, something like that. But then that's where the contract restructurings have to come in, and you're hoping that Marshawn Lattimore and Ryan Ramczyk, that they can get deals done with those guys, because it can help lower their numbers this year, where I think it's 11-ish for Ramczyk, 10-ish for Lattimore. Drop that in half by both or even further, that helps you. And so, look, And I'm curious to see how they navigate this Drew Brees thing, because if they wait on it post June 1st, they lose some of that dead money. But that doesn't matter. Like it wouldn't go into effect until June 1st. So Drew Brees' number is what it is going to be when they move forward. So it's going to be, 15, 16 moves probably still left to go.
So that is a magnificent segue from our friend Larry Holder, theathletic.com/New Orleans. So Drew Brees is out there pushing sleds in parking lots. Are you in any way questioning if he's still going to retire?
Zero. I'm not questioning it at all. Why are we talking about Jameis Winston? Look, he did some cool kettlebells. Alvin Kamara snowboarding. I think he should take up curling next, where in his Montana home. It is amazing to me how one little piece of video, and it's not like Drew Brees put it out there himself. It was his trainer. How going up and down a hill. Also note, did you notice how Drew Brees magically had more hair than he used to? Just saying. That smells like TV hair to me. Just saying.
I mean, look at me. Since I've been on TV, I've just continued going to less hair. So he could have gone the other way, Larry. Same.
Yeah, but what did he do? Get like the spray can hair, or
I don't
know. Who knows?
The spray can hair.
Mark.
Does the spray can hair still exist?
It's got to somewhere, right?
I guess. I don't know. I haven't seen it anywhere. I don't know.
Well, I respect your route of just saying, hey, let's just let it be clean and go. But no, back to the original point. That does not change my mind at all. It's funny. I did a Sirius XM NFL radio interview Monday morning, and they were angry that I just said it doesn't change my mind at all. They were hoping for Drew Brees is coming back. What's going to happen? I said no. I told them, I was like, look, y'all can have me back on the show if he does and call me an idiot and a moron, but I don't expect you'll be making that phone call. So the fact that his base salary is $1 million, that tells you everything you need to know about he makes that move to help the cap because he's going to retire. The end.
What are your? We have not had you on since the Russell Wilson news broke last week that he would accept a trade to New Orleans. Do you have a general feeling on the possibility or prospects of that happening?
I would assume that the Saints have made phone calls. I'm willing to guarantee they've had discussions about it within the building. How can you not? And this is something that it's different than Matt Stafford when, he's just available, but the Saints weren't involved in that. I mean, the fact that Russell Wilson's camp on the record points to the Saints, it's something we have to actually take seriously. Now, that said, what is the percentage chance I say that happens? I put it at 10%, and I might be generous at 10%.
Why?
You'd have to move mountains to make a deal like that happen. You'd have to give enough assets to convince Seattle to even move him, and to take the cap hit that it would give the Seattle Seahawks to move Russell Wilson. And then, look, if you're the Saints, you got to be willing to cut into the bone of your roster because you don't have the draft assets. You got to send actual stud players. So how much are you going to do? And then some of the other teams that are involved, you look at the Raiders, they actually have a quarterback that you could viably say, all right, we'll send Derek Carr. Or Cowboys, all right, we'll send Dak Prescott. I don't think the Bears have that in them. They might have better draft capital, but you think Seattle's going to just take on Nick Foles and say, hey, that's cool? Or Seattle's going to take on Taysom Hill, hey, that's cool? No. And we have to remember Jameis Winston is not under contract, so he's not a tradable asset within this scenario. So add it all up, it sounds like it's a perfect marriage with Russell and the Saints, and yet I have a really hard time coming up with a viable deal that would satisfy Seattle to actually make that move.
3 1s and Ryan Ramczyk.
Now that I wouldn't be willing to go. That's and I texted you my deal last week, and it's been in the Athletic. I said Taysom, Lattimore, 2 1s and a 3. That's a little better than the Goff Stafford deal, and I don't think that gets it done. But boy, do you really want to give up Ramczyk?
No, but I want a quarterback. And to get something of value, you have to give something of value.
That's why I put up Lattimore. I mean, they could use a number one corner. I mean, he'd be the best corner since Richard Sherman. But still, I get where you're coming from. But still, who plays quarterback there? That's my number one question.
Let them figure that out.
Well, I think they do have it figured out. It's going to be Russell Wilson still.
Likely this year, but maybe not next year. So
maybe not next year. So, look, and we could have the same conversation next offseason if they don't like Jameis or Taysom or whatever, and it might be more feasible next year. So this is something where if it doesn't happen now, might happen in a year. I'm with you there.
Jameis, thoughts there? Still thinking he's the guy?
I mean, I think it's going to be a legitimate quarterback battle. I think he wins the job, but I still think their feelings around Jameis hasn't changed. But you drop someone like Russell Wilson in the equation, and then you're thinking about the actual position changes. Just like if Drew Brees retires last year, sorry, Teddy, Tom Brady's coming to New Orleans.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So, like, I think it changes your thought around the position. And Russell Wilson, you go look at the numbers. Russell Wilson's worst year passer rating in his career was better than Jameis Winston's best year in passer rating.
Oh, by the way, he's won a Super Bowl and been to another that he should have won. And
I think he's only missed the postseason once.
Correct.
Out of 10. Yeah. So, look, that's a no-brainer.
That's not a debate.
Right. There's no debate there. It just, how much do you want to pay for one guy? Can you get it done? And if you can't, you do have your fallback with James.
TheAthletic.com/New Orleans. He's on Twitter at Larry Holder. Good enough to spend a couple of minutes with us here today. Thanks as always, Matt. We'll see you.
Bye, Matt. See you, bro.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.